Okay, it's great to speak today with Soj Jibowu, founder and CEO at a new apparel brand, VARLO. Soj, how are you doing?
Awesome, doing very well. Thanks for the opportunity. Looking forward. How about yourself? How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, sun is sort of shining, as you can kind of see to the side of my face. We
Yeah,
don't get much, yeah, we
you,
don't get
you
much sun in the UK.
yeah. You have the luxury there. It's a little bit, kind of overcasty here, but not too bad for a good fall day.
Splendid, splendid. So maybe as a starter, can you tell us a bit about you and your background, and also how the VARLO brand came about?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. It's my background is in biomedical science and chemistry. Actually, I've kind of grew up playing soccer, running track and field. Always had a knack for the sciences, how things worked, how to make things better, take it apart, make it better, and a big fan of real estate, the stock market. Kind of a
Okay.
I think you'd call me kind of like a business entrepreneurial, knack guy. And I started doing triathlon roughly 8 years ago,
Uh-huh.
and it just caught my attention. Fell in love with it, like everyone kind of does that's in the sport. And through accumulation of a lot of things, it was not just one thing, but accumulation of a lot of things that kind of came together regarding the apparel side of the business and obviously the business itself, the business element of triathlon and participants. I started asking questions about the steady incline or decline of the participants in the sport, the global numbers, the trajectory of potential revenue and growth in the next 5 to 10 years, and all of that, kind of came about where I said, I have to do this. I have to. There's a huge need, and it's been a lot of fun since.
So you had this sort of epiphany moment where you thought, I've just got to set this brand up. It's as simple as that, yeah.
It absolutely, to be honest with you. But again, I give it, it wasn't that easy. I think it was accumulation of a lot of things. Partly going to events. I remember one time I was at an ITU event in Chicago, here in the U.S., and I remember, I've been in high competitive athletics all my life, but I remember seeing these athletes, and I can name them all. They're kind of household names. The Brownlees, the Mola, all these athletes that were at the event. And I didn't know them at the time, but I remember seeing them and just being so awed and just so taken back by the athleticism and the endurance. And I said to myself, this is amazing. I have to try this. And again, I think the other aspect of it is my, just knack for being an entrepreneur. I have rental property in the city of Philadelphia. I love stocks. I'm constantly watching the market to analyze and assess profit loss. And it just kind of came together. And of course I like apparel. So, it's kind of there. So absolutely.
That's the journey, yeah.
I've been following you, and I've been following everything that you have going on there, and it's really impressive. And I'm obviously pleased, and I think that you offer a ton of information on your platform, and it's been great. I mean, you've been doing this for some time yourself, correct?
Yeah, too long. Yeah, I had a full head of hair when I started. So yeah, it was. Well, yeah, we set up the site in 2008. Yeah, so the site had a previous incarnation, but yeah, it was something I did prior to my day job, and then set up my. As you probably know, I got my research company, Multisport
Correct.
Research, as well. So, but it's not about me; it's about you.
Awesome.
In terms of. We came across you guys. It was an original press release. I think it was on PR Newswire.
Correct.
And what kind of took me, a couple of things took me. The product looked really nice, like the imagery that you have around the brand,
Yeah.
but also the press release referenced VARLO as a black-owned triathlon and cycling apparel brand.
Yeah.
So I think the interesting thing to get your perspectives would be around how you see your role in a space and in a category essentially where Black, Asian, and minority ethnic athletes are generally less well represented.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a great question, and it's it's a question that we thought of, and kind of was the catalyst behind pursuing VARLO.
Mhm.
And when we look at the pool and the participants in the not only U.S. but the global triathlon marketplace, it's kind of just as you said. I mean, there's this disparity not only as a gender gap, but also within minority participations in the sport. So we took that as, obviously there's a need for not just awareness, but there's a need for marketability and to make the sport attractive to athletes to come into the sport and to invite them into the sport. As a brand, if you look at a lot of, many brands, not just in triathlon, but a lot of brands outside of triathlon, one thing that they do very, very well, and they become very crafty at it, is they market and they speak to not only the athletes that are in the sport, but they speak to new emerging athletes that are not in the sport. And by that, you're constantly cultivating new athletes and new participants. And so if you look here in the States specifically, we looked at like the 2017 to 2019, we looked as far back as 2016. And one of the things that we've seen is like a perceived decline in the sport of triathlon of participants. We've seen that the actual number of races have went up, but it could be perceived that new participants are declining. And one of the things in the hopes of VARLO is to attract new athletes into the sport that are from those communities, whether it's Black, Asian, Indian, Hispanic, into the sport of triathlon.
Yeah, so you're not that's not what your brand's about, though. So your brand is about everyone. You're not targeting one particular cohort within society at all. It's very much for all. I'm getting a sense looking at the way you present the brand.
Yes, absolutely. So the brand itself is targeted for all athletes, not just Black or Hispanic or minority group of participants, but all athletes. I think that one of the things that we offer as a brand is kind of a fresh face, right, and some fresh new ideas and thought. I told a colleague of mine, the thing with VARLO is that we're just like any other brand. We're just like any other company that's out there that's looking to get into the marketplace. It just so happens that the founder just happens to be a Black guy. And so there is some, but I do believe, and I truly believe that there's fresh perspective with that, because when we do our ads and we do our campaigns and we look at how we want to target and speak of athletes, we want to make sure that we're including a wide range of athletes. That is, females, males, participants from different races, participants that may come from different demographic backgrounds and definitely different medium income backgrounds as well. So it's been a fun journey, and we're really excited to continue.
No, definitely. I think you mentioned the point about the trajectory of the market, and certainly the US, as the world's largest triathlon market, has had this drop in participation. You're absolutely right. I think it was at the Endurance Exchange or the previous Triathlon Business International conference where this phrase "flat is the new growth" came out. And that's not a phrase you want to be hearing too much in an industry. And I think what you're doing by as you say, being available to all and being welcoming to all, certainly would hope to be encouraging for those groups. Linked to that, though, I suppose this is the interesting. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a paradox, but the pricing of your product is pretty premium. You seem to be positioning certainly not at an entry level type product. I mean, maybe you've got a view on pricing and how that might evolve going forwards, but it seems that you've come in certainly as you're clearly a performance apparel brand. I suppose the other question therefore is, as a premium brand, can you empower every athlete, where obviously price may be a barrier for some?
Absolutely. With triathlon, I think the largest barrier of entry is definitely price, and definitely access to not just the tools, but the training facilities and so on and so forth. And with our price model and our strategy, one of the things that we want to focus on is, I guess I'll take this back a little bit. You know, one of the things that we're uncovering as we're studying the marketplace for triathletes, we were uncovering the different segments of athletes, right? There's actually 7 profile athletes in triathlon. You have your dabblers, your enthusiasts, your emotional athletes, your power trainers, and so on and so forth. And you can actually study it and break it down to a granular level as to, you know, what motivates and drives these individuals and even buying habits. So with our brand, our strategy kind of lies in, you know, kind of having a scaled approach tier model for pricing. What we currently have right now is our first iteration of product. It's kind of a step into the marketplace. And we launched purposely towards the tail end of 2021, in the midst of COVID, excuse me, in 2020, in the midst.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we're not in the midst of COVID in the tail end of 21.
Absolutely not. And that's what we hope. But we launched purposely the tail end of 2020, going into 2021, just to have like some market penetration and some market presence. We have a full line of product that we're actually rolling out into the spring that will have a different tiered model. We'll be able to offer product for the elite athletes, the performance-based athletes, and then also the entry-level athletes that offer performance, but then also at a palatable cost point.
Yeah, because it does seem that a lot of brands, particularly within triathlon, and actually I suppose to some extent within cycling apparel, they position themselves at this price point, and they're premium till the day they die kind of aspect, and it does seem to be very hard to come in with, yeah, as you say, that more accessible and affordable option when you have your price point so high at the outset, and it seems to stay that way.
Yeah, I think that probably, you know, again, when we look at the profiled athletes and the participants in the sport, there's right now, you could probably actually break it down to 14, but those 7 segments of athletes, you think about it, and it's just a numbers game. It's kind of like real estate. If you have a majority of brands or vendors targeting 17% of the population, then, you know, what about the other, you know, 80+% of athletes that are there, right? That are wanting to embark in the sport and they don't want to spend $400 on a tri-kit. Those athletes also need performance apparel as well. So
yeah, definitely. And I suppose linked with that, it's how do you work with events in order that those events, the price point to actually access and undertake and participate in a triathlon is affordable. You know, we have seen some events, certainly in the US, taking that approach, trying to be more affordable. But I suppose as the industry is facing so many challenges, that aspect of things, you know, event pricing, I suppose, also comes to the fore as well, I'm guessing.
Absolutely. Event pricing is a big hurdle. And what we've seen, like in 2008, when we hit like an economic decline here in the States, we've looked at all these like fluctuations of, you know, where revenue and discretionary income was going. And, you know, we kind of saw maybe like a little bit of like a flattening of pricing for events. There was definitely a decline in major capital purchases with bikes and so on and so forth. Apparel kind of stayed like, you know, relatively flat, but with VARLO, and again, this is kind of like where I go back to stocks, and I'm thinking of like, you know, just business 101 is you invest when the market is down, because that's when you're not only do you have a, you know, less barrier to entry, but you have fewer obstacles to kind of hop over. And so we are pretty, you know, our overhead cost is relatively low. We have a small team. We've been able to negotiate some amazing deals with everyone from our manufacturing to our warehousing, because the market is where it is. We have that flexibility right now, and so we do have a little bit more, I guess I'd say, liberal freedom with our pricing and what we can actually, you know, pull out to customers and you know, make accessible.
Yeah. Also, and in terms of getting product to consumer, you have the direct to consumer web side. Are you also looking at retail and working with distributors, or are you predominantly going to be a direct-to-consumer brand?
I think for now we're going to stay direct to consumer for a little bit,
Mhm.
and the reason is it kind of falls in line with the strategy of the brand. You know, when we were starting the brand and I was thinking of all these questions to answer, two things came up that I said, okay, we have to make sure that if we follow this algorithm, that the brand will have a pretty bright future and we can have a pretty good trajectory as far as what we do, and that is to stay sustainable and then scalable.
Mhm.
You know, one, everything that we're doing is it sustainable, meaning that we can replicate it at a decent manner. But then also, is it scalable, meaning that we can grow and we can kind of stay ahead of the times of things. We're not getting too far ahead of ourselves, and we're not like cutting ourselves short. If the answer is yes to those two things, then it's an initiative that we're definitely going to do. If the answer is no, then we're going to stay away from it as far as possible because we're probably going to be doomed for failure. But to your original question, yeah, I think that right now, we will intend to have a steady growth, and then just continue putting things out to the market in a feasible way where consumers can receive product, but then also it kind of fits within the internal model of growth.
Okay, got you. And does that model, can we expect to see the VARLO brand in Europe? Or are you staying within the US for now? Or
You will see the brand in Europe. So we actually we obviously have an ambassador program.
Mhm.
We have quite a few ambassadors in the UK as right now, and there's purpose behind that because we kind of want to see how the brand does on a peer-to-peer marketing format, and I think our next target market is the UK. But again, we want to do it in a manner that is scalable and sustainable versus just throwing a dart at the board and then hoping that we hit appropriately.
Yeah, yeah. I think the days of spray and pray with marketing are probably way behind us.
Oh,
No,
no.
no one's got the cash. No one's got the cash for that anymore. Uh,
You've done you do market research. I'm sure that you've seen it. Like I mean, I'm sure you're a data guy and data driven person, and data basically discerns all risk. And if you have the data that supports where and how you should proceed, then you'll do so and hopefully be in good shape.
Indeed, indeed. Hopefully, one should prevail. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
okay, Scott, one final question. I could actually talk for ages, but conscious of your time as much as anything. And we've been asking this to a lot of the guys we're speaking with around this whole Inside the News series, and it's around the longer term prospects for the industry and the category. Clearly, the category's been kicked in the teeth.
Yeah,
Lots of events. It's been a bit of a house of cards. Everything's kind of fallen by everything is interrelated, as you know, events, brands, sponsorship, athlete paydays, etc.
exactly.
Um, can we? I suppose the simple question is: can we weather the storm and come back stronger, or are you concerned about the viability of the industry at all?
I think that um, like all industries, every now and then you need a reset. You need something to come along and reset the playing field and kind of bring things down to kind of a tiered off level. And I think COVID may be just that.
I think it definitely was.
Where because I think one thing that is for certain that without a doubt is that the days of what we saw in 2019, 2018, and probably years before, moving forward, I think that it's going to be a while until we see that again. And that is, these massive global like races with people transferring from all over the globe to come to one place. There's so many things and obstacles that you have to jump over to get to that. You have municipality laws now with restrictions on COVID. You have governing body laws on attendee participation in a certain area. So I think that the industry is going to change. Now, do I think the industry will get past it and prevail? Absolutely. Absolutely. But again, like any market, including the stock market or real estate market, I think that the individuals that will probably come out of that in a sharp manner to individuals that plan appropriately and accordingly. Right now, like any market, there's a little bit of a lull, and it's going to slowly come back up. And if you plan accordingly, I think that you're going to be in good shape, and you'll be kind of on that wave to help and be the solution to drive the sport in the right direction. Absolutely.
Cool. Well, this has been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. I wish you all the very best with the VARLO brand. Look forward to seeing more successes and coming to Europe as well. And yeah, let's keep in touch. And thanks again for your time. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Really, thanks, Gary. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.